I just got back from the Superman movie. It was good. I enjoyed it. That's the quick and dirty of it. I don't think it was like an amazing masterpiece, but I thought it was good. I did have a good time with this film. I enjoyed it. Now, in a lot of ways, I too am like Superman here, doing something very heroic and giving my opinion on this movie. That's playing with fire. That's a dangerous game right now, because if you like the movie, you're wrong. If you dislike the movie, you're wrong. If you found the movie just okay, you're wrong. The discourse around this film has been fucking mind-boggling. But I'm still gonna spit out my thoughts on it, so only way I do that these days is through spoilers. Well, I mean, not through spoilers, but I like to talk about spoilers so I can really get into the spaghetti and the meatballs. So this is your warning. I'm going to be talking about spoilers when talking about this. So first things first, there is a lot of things going on in this movie. It jumps around from a lot of different things that keep spawning in. And I know a lot of people were kind of concerned that it might be juggling too much. And I do think after seeing it, there was a lot that got neglected just because of how many things came into the fold. Easiest example is the Justice Gang. They are side characters. They do have like an important role to play, but you don't get to know anything about them at all. Just very like surface level things, which it was always going to be a tall order to try and flesh them out alongside everything else going on here. But even outside of them, Clark Kent isn't really a character in the movie. He's only on screen like maybe 2 or 3 times and only shares a scene with Lois like twice. It's almost entirely Superman, which I think is okay, but because you don't really have a whole lot on the Clark Kent side of things, the relationship between him and Lois, I don't think was super well established. Like, super well conveyed. Like, one of the scenes is that interview that everyone's seen clips of, where they're like, you know, Superman's yelling at her. It seems like they're at each other's throat. In the context of the film, though, it makes sense. Like, it's not a bad scene, but you never really get to see them, like, actually be in love. Like, it doesn't really feel like Lois Lane would go all out to try and save Clark Kent. Like, she was even considering breaking up with him, like, right before like the entire situation went tits up. So it just felt like, because the movie was introducing so many things, putting all of these ingredients into the pot in the cauldron, it led to some other elements getting pushed to the background and thrown on the bench, like, in terms of its characters. That's not to say that I think the characters are bad or anything like that. I just think they were a little undercooked. There was a lot more potential with them than was fully realized in this film. Like, there was more meat on the bones here. Like, it wasn't, you know, we weren't in the clean plate club. We weren't, you know, eating the best meal when it came to these characters that I think could have been served up. And I imagine in future films will be explored more in depth, obviously, but I wanted to make a mention of it here. Now, something that didn't really sit right with me is just how much Superman gets his ass beat. Superman gets slapped around more often than the box ghost from Danny Phantom. Like, off rip, too. The movie starts with him plopping down. He's defeated. He's then brought to the lair. The Superman robots play him his favorite ASMR, which is a video from his parents saying, "We love you, Kal-El. We love you. We're sorry we're dead." They even say it soothes him. He likes it. Then after he heals himself up to like 83%, he goes back to fight another villain, the Hammer of Bavaria. And he gets his ass beat like a drum again. And the Hammer is basically Tony Stark's prototype Iron Man suit that he made in that cave. he once again gets walloped. And I understand, like, this is an early Superman, like, he's still new to his career here, but I mean, come on. The villains treat him like a punching bag. They're like tweaking on his nipples and shit. Like, they just get full reign to just annihilate him. I don't think he wins a single skirmish without help at any point. In every single fight, I'm pretty sure he had someone come in to help him in order to win. The only time that didn't happen is when he disposed of a bunch of grunts. Outside of that, though, every, like, actual fight, he had help. Which might be the point, but even still, it just felt a little underwhelming that Superman is struggling this much against everything and everyone. And I don't want anyone to get this misconstrued. I think the fights are really hype. I actually think they did a good job of capturing what a Superman fight would look and feel like. It feels heavy. It feels really well done. Like, I actually really enjoyed the action. I just didn't like that usually the action would end with Superman going, in like a Peter Griffin death pose. Like, he would constantly just get ragdolled until someone came in to give him an advantage or give him some type of help. and then he would overcome and defeat the foe, the adversary. Now, I understand why he would struggle so much against Ultraman and Lex Luthor team up. That is actually a really cool combo where Lex Luthor has basically downloaded all of Superman's moves. He can see into the future with his fucking Sharingan here, where he knows every one of his moves. So he's come up with so many different countermeasures, like all of these combat styles and techniques, in order to say them to Ultraman, who will then use them on Superman to great effect. So he's basically like, A55, B17, Blue 42, and Ultraman does it, and Superman's struggling because he's basically fighting two opponents in one. A super smart guy and a super strong guy, because it's a clone of him. That's a really cool combo, and it makes sense why that would be a really tough opponent, but it's not just him that he struggles against. It's pretty much every time he is about to fight someone, he needs someone else to come in to help him in order to win. The scenes were still flashy and well done, and I actually think the CGI was surprisingly good here, considering how in the shitter DCU CGI was. It's good to see that they bounced back and actually delivered some really nice visuals for the most part here. So don't get it twisted, I did still really like the action. It's just something that I didn't love the decision of making Superman always having a hard time against the opponent. But anyway, I'll stop yapping about that. I want to get into a little bit of glaze because there are some things in this movie that I think worked really well. I very much enjoyed Krypto. I think Krypto was really fun. It never got like stale or, stupid with Krypto. Like, it very clearly leans into the absurdity of the Superdog being like a sidekick that fights. And they even play around with him still just being a dog. So like Mr. Terrific's floating orbs, the dog gets really interested in playing, so goes out and starts biting the orbs and shit, which ends up playing a big role in the end for how the dog helps Superman against Ultraman. It's cute. Like, I actually thought Krypto was great. I also really liked Lois Lane. I thought she was really well done. I do think she was a very strong choice for Lois Lane, and even though I did criticize that her and Clark Kent didn't have a whole lot on screen time together, that's not to say that I think Lois Lane had nothing to do. She plays a huge role here in uncovering Lex Luthor's dastardly evil plot, as well as saving Superman and doing all she can to actually help him. Without Lois Lane, Superman wouldn't have been successful. And I think they do a good job with her. And I also think that the Justice Gang is hype. I wish we got to see more of them. Mr. Terrific in particular, I was really surprised by how much he got to do, because he's like the only one in the Justice Gang I didn't know anything about. I wasn't familiar with his game, but now I'm a huge fan. Like, he is fun to watch when he's fighting. So like when he goes with Lois Lane to the pocket dimension, he basically destroys the entire barracks by himself using all of his spheres, and he's playing music. It's a very on the nose scene, but it's still done really well that it becomes hype. And I thought he was super cool. He was really fun to watch. I also really, really liked the Green Lantern here. He is a character that I think comedy works super well for. I think Nathan did an incredible job with the Green Lantern here. He doesn't get a ton of screen time, but when he's there, he makes the most of it. Hawkgirl is the only one in the Justice Gang that didn't really get a ton to do. At the end, she does make a big decision to kill one of the big bads, where the big bad's like, "You won't kill me, you're all so weak like Superman, you don't have the fucking nutsack to take me out." And she's like, "I'm not Superman," and just fucking kills him, which I thought was great. But she doesn't have a ton of screen time or a ton of lines in general. So I would like to see more from her, because I do think she's cool. The whole Justice Gang I thought was cool, including the new addition, which was the Element Man. He was fucking awesome. He also didn't have a whole lot to do, but they did give him a bit of characterization, because while Superman was trapped in a pocket dimension, he's able to make kryptonite. They've already established there's no kryptonite left on Earth, so he can make it, meaning he is like the ultimate defense against Superman. But he joins the Justice Gang after Superman saves his baby and saves them from the pocket dimension. And I think they're very cool characters that I would like to see more of, and get to watch them do more things. Now let's get into the big ones. Lex Luthor. That's a hard role to play, and I think Nicholas Hoult does a really good job, but I do think the script betrays his talent a few times. I think he does an extraordinary job being menacing. He never comes off as cringe or too over the top. It's always perfectly on that line where his rage and his intellect is being channeled in the most efficient means possible to get what he wants. And what he ultimately wants is Superman dead. And I think he does a great job of getting that to the audience. They also aren't afraid to show that he is evil. I was a little concerned that they were going to make him like very, soft, because they had that announcement about how they removed a scene from this film that had Ultraman punching Crypto because it was too negative. And it just felt weird because, that's a bad guy. He's supposed to do bad things. It makes sense in the context of the film. It's fucking Crypto the Super Dog. I can already see where that scene probably was here, where they go into Superman's lair and Crypto tries to defend it. I imagine Ultraman probably punched Crypto there when he was attacking. In the film, the final cut, they just capture Crypto. I don't think that was like over the line or anything egregious, but it made me concerned that they weren't going to actually make these villains bad. They do. Lex Luthor plays a game of Russian roulette in front of Superman, where he has one guy who was just nice to Superman. Not even a guy that Superman even really knows all that well. It's just a guy that liked Superman. They had interacted a little bit, and Lex Luthor wanted some answers out of him, so he puts a gun to his head, plays Russian roulette, and just blows his fucking brains out. It was like really effective. It was a surprising scene. But after that, it felt like the movie didn't want to commit to that version of Lex Luthor again. He doesn't go to that level after that. And then it kind of shies away from him being how he was in that scene and the few scenes preceding it, where I think he was at his strongest. It then kind of falls into being like a little more tame, where he talks about how envious he is of Superman because I'm so smart, but you're so strong, and it makes people forget about how smart I am, and it makes us feel small. You're a reminder that we're just insignificant. And it's like, okay, that is understandable, but it's a little different than how you were kind of setting him up earlier, and I don't think it utilizes what Nicholas Hoult was best at prior. Like, it kind of comes across more whiny than it does like big evil, super bad guy that is a capable opponent to Superman, even while not being superpowered himself. So I do still think Lex Luthor overall was really good. I just think maybe they were a little shy to really commit to that version that I think they were building up to initially, which is, it's still fine how he ends up here. Like, I still think it's good, but they kind of almost reduce him to a joke at the end where, like, Superman obviously saves the day, and Lex Luthor, everything that he ever built is now being burned down around him. The whole world is viewing him as a traitor for all of his terrible things that he was scheming. And then as he's like, everything's ruined and he's yelling at Superman, Crypto comes in and treats him like a chew toy, and it becomes a joke, and they're like, ew. Superman's like, oh, come on, Crypto, set him down. Oh, come on, you're hurting him. Come on, set him down. It reduces him to kind of a joke, which I think kind of betrays how he was being set up. Not the biggest deal in the world. I do still think it was a good Lex Luthor for the most part. I just would have liked to see them fully commit to where it seemed like they were going. But maybe I'm misunderstanding what the direction they wanted for the character was. Actually, I want to make a mention of this before talking about how Superman is as a character, which I know everyone wants to know because it's a new Superman. How is he? But before answering that, I want to mention there are quite a few emotional scenes in this film that get undercut with comedy. I know this has become a huge cliche in comic book movies. It is such a huge trend. This curse has not been broken. This film does have humor cutting through emotional bits, and I don't love it. It's not every time, so I don't think it's like a huge deal. It's only a few scenes I can remember off the top of my head, but it would have just benefited from not doing that because it already has a lot of comedy in it. Every character is quippy. Pretty much every comic book movie ever has quippy characters. There's no just like non-quippy characters anymore. But I really wish they would just let the emotional beats ride. So an example of this is kind of what I mentioned with Lex Luthor at the very end, where he gets like reduced to just the butt of a joke, like a punchline. But there's also a scene where Superman, everything is burning down around him because it turns out that message that he used to like to listen to when getting healed about his parents sent him here, like made him feel really calm and really, hopeful about his mission. Well, it turns out the rest of that message was actually his parents saying that he needs to conquer the world and have a whole harem so that way he can spread his seed and bring back Kryptonians. And it's like, that's a huge thing. And it wasn't faked or anything. It was like the authentic message. That is the message from his real parents. And that's a game changer for him. That changes his whole life. And the weight of that is felt all around him because Lex Luthor reveals it to the world. So everyone hates Superman. They're all questioning him now. Like, he came here to conquer us. Can we trust him? And he's having an emotional conversation with Lois Lane about it. And then it kind of devolves into the two of them joking. Like he mentions, like, yeah, I gotta get my dog. Lex Luthor kidnapped him. I can't find him. He's kind of a bad dog, though. He's like not even a good dog, but he might be scared, so I'm gonna go try and like maybe save him. Like, and they start like interjecting some jokes in there, and it's just like it's not really a good time for that. Like in the background of the whole conversation, they have the Justice Gang fighting like this dimensional imp, I think is what he called it, and it's a really cool looking thing visually, but it's played off as kind of like a distraction joke. And I don't know, I just feel like it would have been a lot heavier to just let that scene ride, because that's a pretty big deal. Like that's a very like, emotional moment. I don't think it needed comedy to like deflate it. And it's not like it does it every time, because there's a scene where Clark is interacting with his father. And Clark is still wrestling with his real parents, sending him on this mission that goes against everything he thought they wanted for him and everything he wants for himself. His dad sits him down about like how, you know, parents aren't there to control your lives and give you purpose. They're there to give you tools. And it's ultimately your actions, your decisions that define you. It's a really good speech, actually. There is no comedy there. It is just like an actual heart-to-heart moment. And I think it hit really, really well. I wish it had done that every time it was setting up an emotional moment. I think it would have helped off. It really would have helped with the payoff. But anyway, the big thing. How is the new Superman, David Corenswet? I actually thought he was great. I think he is a really good fit for this version of Superman they are gearing up towards. I know they were talking about how hopeful they want this Superman to be. I think he can come across that way really, really well. In this movie, they point blank say, like, you're very trusting. Like, he trusts everyone. In a lot of ways, he's a lot like his fucking dog. Like, he himself is always, you know, going to the next thing because he wants to do good. He wants to make people happy, make people proud of him. He wants to help as many people as possible, and he sees the best in everyone. Lois Lane even said, you think everyone out there is just beautiful. And I think that's a really cool direction for Superman here. Very true to, like, the Superman ideal. And I think David Corenswet does a good job of embodying that. It is a fun Superman to watch. He does everything possible to save everyone possible. He's fighting a giant kaiju. Well, he might have hit it too hard, now it's stumbling, it might hit this building. You bet your sweet bippy he's going behind that monster to kind of shove it back to the middle so that way it doesn't fall into this building and potentially hurt someone. The monster gets defeated by the Justice Gang. Well, they were a little reckless, now this monster might fall and hurt somebody, so he goes up, picks it up, and then gently sets it down. Like, it is cool to see this Superman just do everything imaginable to save everyone. Stopping a piece of rubble from just hitting a woman in her car, everything. It's cool. And I think David Corenswet does a good job here. I've been blabbering about this for a while now. Point is, I actually really did like this movie. I think it is a pretty good film. Do I think it's amazing? Not really. I think it's better than most of the DC movies that we've gotten, for sure. I definitely don't think it's a bad film by any means. I also don't think it's like a mediocre film. I do think it's a good movie. I definitely think it's worth watching. I don't think it's a movie everyone's going to love, but I do think there's going to be a lot of people that do love it. I was more in the camp of, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I did have a good time watching this one. And it makes me excited to see what comes next from this new vision for DC. So anyway, that's really about it. See ya.